Hey there, independent Scientologists. Discover a new perspective to your bridge by visiting ao-gp.org. Get in session with remote auditing using the theta meter. Are you curious about where you stand? Head on over to ao-gp.org now and take our free personality test. Join the growing group of independent Scientologists today.
Hi, and welcome to another Scientology Outside of the Church podcast brought to you by the Advanced Org of the Great Plains. That's us. And I'm here with Quenton Stroud. This is season 7, episode 17. This one's going to be about Scientology is boring, with a little lilt up at the end. Boring. And I think this will be a fun one for people that are like, oh God, this is so boring. There's reasons for this. So it's been a while since we've done a podcast because we've been moving locations and everything, both Quenton and I, and we're back with a vengeance. How are you doing, Quenton?
I'm doing fantastic. Just got back from a cruise and I am in absolute bliss. So yeah,
It's always good to take a vacation.
right.
So, Scientology, boring?
I've been doing this for 20 plus years, right? 22, 23 years. And I've had a lot of friends that have said to me, "Oh man, Scientology is boring." And I'm like, No, it's not." Like to me, Scientology has always come across as very fascinating. Even when I first encountered it some 20 plus years ago, like I had no idea what it was. I had never heard of L. Hubbard. I had never heard of Dianetics even. I didn't see all the commercials and stuff like that, or at least I don't remember seeing them. Um, and when I walked into uh, org at the time, it was it was fascinating to me to see everything that I saw. Well, now as I study and the subject of Scientology as an Indian Scientologist, it to me it gets even more fascinating to see the evolution of it in a whole bit. But I get why some people feel that Scientology is boring, the study of it, right? Um, there's mechanisms behind it. There's reasons for that. And all I'll say is this: growing up in a Black Christian church household kind of community, it there was a very different vibe to what we call church, right?
Mhm.
And the whole experience of it. It was a production, right? It was an experience. Um, and so I can get why all the pomp and circumstance not there can seem boring to some people. Without all the pomp and circumstance, I can get why some people might feel that Scientology is boring because it doesn't have all that the production associated
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, you don't have the fire and brimstone thing going on as much as you do in other facets of religion, because it's well, and this is an interesting aspect of this. If we look at the CDEI scale, the curious, desired, enforced, inhibited, no, and refuse scale, uh, and tell me if you think this is the case. Where would you say your past experiences in a religion or a philosophy, where did they fall on the CDEI scale? Like with a pastor in what you know the best, for
In-
example.
For me, it was probably either on desire, probably desire. Um, there was a yearning, a craving, I need to feel that feeling.
Hmm.
I literally had people say, I need to go, I need a shower, I need a bump. It was like, it was like cocaine.
Well, and yeah, like you see in a lot of the Southern Baptist churches and things like that. And if you go to one of those, I mean, every one of them is almost like a revival,
Yeah.
where you walk out and you just feel invigorated. And there's
Hmm.
there's a there's a there's a point here, because when you, and this is my opinion, and tell me if you have a different viewpoint, but when you feel invigorated, You're at curious on the CDEI scale. Curious or
Yeah.
at a minimum desired, because you might be desired to stay in there and keep singing songs with choir and things like that, where different religions have different sermons, or like we're talking about today, in Scientology, independent Scientology specifically. I mean, we don't do Sunday services, but it's one of those things that when you feel it, and this is the point that I'm getting to, when you feel it and you get a desired result from it, you go from maybe for some people enforced, or no, some people don't like to study, and they start getting up into desired in Scientology. But you have to experience it for yourself. It has to be, and this is what it always is, if it's true for you, it's true for you. So when it becomes true, then it's desired, or preferably curious, don't you think?
100%. Yeah. Because I've always been curious and wanting to know more. That's just been my nature, period. Just growing up as a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point where once I realized that there's so much more that I didn't know or didn't recall even, like, and I could learn this, I could know this, I could recall this, I could work with this, I could use this. It worked for me. Now, I will say, and I do believe that there is a mechanism in there that when a person doesn't want to learn, or might have too many misunderstood words, or might have had some bad education or bad control, or whatever case may be in the past, that they don't want to even approach this level of knowingness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Alan, that comes down to, if something is boring, are you, and actually I was doing a session with Lisa today on interesting, and that
Hmm.
interested and interesting open the door to, wait for it, havingness. And you have to have
Absolutely.
you have to have intention to be interested. It's far, far, far more noble an endeavor to be interested, per LRH, and my own observations, and I'm sure yours, that if you're interested in something and you have intention, then, only then, can you actually have it. And when I say
Yeah.
have, I don't necessarily mean the bright, shiny car have.
Hmm.
I mean the have. Can you have the person standing next to you? Can you have a subject? Because that's a different kind of have. It's not what I want. And feel free to
Hmm.
jump in here. It's not what I
Yeah.
want, but what can I have? Can I have living around a lot of trees? Can I have a clean pool? Can I have the leaves that fall in the pool that I have to clean out on a daily basis? I'm looking out the window and using examples of this. Can I have that?
Right.
Can I have Scientology?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's interesting to me that being more interested in um, others, in life, in the subject of Scientology, in whatever, being more interested did allow me to have it more, have
Mm-hmm.
more,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because at first I was going to use the word you can tolerate more, but I don't even think that's the right word. I think it really is a point of havingness, because I can then have whatever life throws at me. I can have whatever this is. We watch um South Park, or we watch this stuff that's out there, and people be like, this all this stuff is existing out there about Scientology or whatever, and I can have that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. I can have that. I can see that. I can see what's going on. I
Hmm.
can have what it is, and I can continue to study. I can continue to read. I can continue to go on course. I can continue to get auditing. I can continue to learn more about myself because I can have whatever it is. Like there's no break on that. And so it
Right.
doesn't it doesn't it doesn't put me off, as it were, right? To see something or be aware of something or know something and be like, oh yeah, I don't want to have. No, I can have it. Yeah, okay, that's
Hmm.
interesting
Hmm. Well,
because I'm interested in that.
right, because you're interested, you're already interested in that, and Hubbard says in one of the briefing course lectures, he says, I always like it when you have questions because then I know what you don't know, and then
Yeah,
you can go from there. And then when you take that an extra step and you have somebody who's watched South Park, for example, and has seen that episode, it's it then tells you when somebody's being critical about it or says, oh, well, that's, the origin story of Scientology. It's the same thing. You know what they don't know.
yeah, that's it. It automatically exposes the the ignorance of the person. Not to disparage, but to say like you just don't know what you're saying. Like you regurgitating something that you might have saw on a television show or read on whatever. Like, but you don't know what you're talking about. And to
Hmm.
that degree, it might seem uninteresting to you, if not far-fetched, if not whatever else. It doesn't seem like you can have it. And that's
Hmm.
okay if you can't. But my grandma used to say, "Baby, just keep living, just
Yeah.
keep living, and
Yeah.
you'll see."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like Hubbard says, even he has a hard time confronting evil. I mean, he actually wrote this,
Hmm.
and it's in a policy. And if somebody thinks that something is boring, well, and then this is out of Creation of Human Ability. I've been rereading the book in a new unit of time, and I mentioned this to
Yes,
you
my
earlier
favorite.
before the podcast. Is if a person, whether it's good or evil, good and evil are still interesting to people, and there are varying degrees of good and evil. Absolutes are unobtainable, per Hubbard, and I would agree with that. So good and evil, that is the premise of every story ever written, even
Hmm.
in the good
Yep,
book.
yep,
Okay, if
that's
it's a
true.
if it's a fictional story. So how in the world could something like this subject be boring to anybody unless they hadn't delved into it enough, which is kind of where we've headed with this. If they haven't delved in it enough to look for themselves and get some of that information and actually know something about it by taking they're saying, oh, this is interesting, I'm going to be interested in it with some intention,
Hmm.
whether that intention, and how many times have you and I both gone into something in life and gone in with the aspect of, well, I'm gonna prove this subject wrong, and I'm gonna go in and read it, and
Yeah,
then you got into it and you went, damn, this is good.
you know what? That just happened to me. I was having a conversation with a flat earther, a person who believes the world is flat,
Mhm.
and I was having a conversation with a flat earther, and I went in trying to prove. I went in to prove him, and the conversation got so interesting to me
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, that's pretty interesting stuff."
Mhm.
And it was a funny little conversation, and we ended up taking pictures like together. Like I was in Thailand, ended up taking pictures and stuff like that. It was a really really good conversation, but I was just interested in what he was saying. It was pretty
Right.
interesting.
Right. And that's the thing with the subject of independent Scientology is it's a matter of viewpoints of dimension. And the interchange of those viewpoints, which we've talked about in the Scientology and Dianetic Axioms, is that interchange of viewpoints is how you learn. You can't just go into something and decide, well, there's nothing to learn about this, because you're not going to be able to even begin to assimilate any of the information because you've already made up your mind, which is also part of
Right.
the student hat materials in Scientology. So we've got that too. So how can it be boring?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because when Ellery talks about boredom, I think there's a reference he has called simple processes. And in the reference on simple processes, 1994, March 31st, 1994, he talks about how boredom boredom really is this condition or this state where you have kind of run into this over and over monotonous kind of vibe, right? It's a
Mhm.
monotonous thing, and I'm not quoting here, but it's a monotony of processes, a monotony of happenings that's going on. And he actually talks about how duplication is the way to get through boredom.
Mhm.
So when somebody says Scientology is boring, it just simply means you haven't duplicated what's being talked about, what's being referenced, what's being said. You
Yeah.
you didn't get it. You don't have enough duplication. You don't have enough understanding yet. You don't have enough full awareness yet to really get it that it therefore is no longer boring. That if you're going through something, you're reading the materials, you're on course and you just can't get through it. You keep getting stumped. You keep blowing course. And I'm just talking to all the independent Scientologists out there, right? Make sure you get on course. But all this stuff is happening, and it's all it is a lack of duplication. And once you get enough duplication, it basically says like this can happen. This can happen again. This can be again. This can be. This can be. This can be. That's what duplication actually gets you to a point of. This
Mhm.
can be, and it's a really really interesting thing because now, whatever it is that you're studying, oh, okay, that can be. Okay, and you read some more. Okay, that can be, and you get to this place of like, now I fully can duplicate it. Oh, it's so wonderful.
Right. Well, and it's important for any new listeners to define duplication as to
Mm,
what duplication is. I think because I'm sure we'll have some new people listening. Is duplication is when I say, look at that tree, and the other person duplicates. In other words, they're understanding, and then they're going, okay, what direction, what vector is that in? And then they're going, turning their body and looking at that tree and going, oh,
mm,
that is a parrot, a yellow parrot in the tree. That is a so and so type of parrot. That's duplication. But when somebody doesn't duplicate the information, they're not understanding it at all. There's no duplication in the communication. And that's why people find Scientology boring, is they're not duplicating it, either because they have misunderstood words, or they've
mm,
decided they don't want to learn about it, or they've gotten false information on it and they don't want to open their eyes and actually take something and apply it and use it for themselves. That's what makes, and it doesn't matter whether it's Scientology or if it's basket weaving, that's what makes it boring.
mm,
That's all there is to it. Now, the other things enter into that if there's too much randomity, too much motion going on, a person, a being, a thetan gets put to sleep per the Scientology axioms, or I think it's the Dianetic
mm,
axioms actually. And if there's too little, well, then a person goes to sleep as well as a being because there's not enough randomity, one way or the other, too much or too little. So it's a matter of having the appropriate amount of
oh my
duplication
God.
to have the amount of randomity that you need in order to be able to study something. Did you have a thought?
Hold on a second. You're absolutely right. Like if there's too little randomity or too much randomity. So just today, my 2D came in the room and said, "Babe, I'm bored. I'm bored." And I was like, well, what is there to be bored about? There's so much going on. But in my reality, from my perspective, I got a lot going on. Like I got a lot of stuff I'm creating, got a lot of stuff I'm working on, a lot of business stuff I'm doing, whatever. But my 2D doesn't have that. And so it's like, okay, you're bored. Okay, so we got to find some randomity. And so I said, well, let's take a walk. And we go outside, we go to the hardware store, we go get some stuff or whatever. And I was just trying to manufacture some randomity, right?
Mhm. Right, to
So,
pull them back up the tone scale out of boredom.
right.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
I get it now.
and that goes back to the interested, interesting, and interested is better than interesting, and interested requires intention to be interested. If you don't have the intention to be interested in something, you will not then have what it is, or not be able to create to have, either way, that thing that makes things less boring. So it isn't the subject, it isn't a thing, it isn't the environment. It all starts with the being themselves. Do you want to be interested? Do you have the intention to be interested in order to have something that makes something not boring?
Yeah. Do you have that intention? Yeah.
Yeah, because without intention, intention is cause. Without intention, you got nothing. We find this out on the professional TR's course when you're learning how to communicate with somebody professionally. You learn as an auditor or maybe in sales or whatever. The same is true for a person in front of you as it is a subject. That if you don't have the intention and you're not interested, you will not get your communication across to them in order to have them duplicate what it is. And this is very important in relationships with
Mm.
the opposite sex, or whoever, a business partner or somebody that you're trying to make a business partner. You have to get it across to them. You have to be interested, because if you're interesting, it's an inflow. Interested is an outflow, and you have to have that intention in order to have that duplication, in order to get something done. It doesn't matter whether it's a person or a thing.
Well, there's a saying, a colloquial saying that, idle hands are the devil's playground. You've heard that
That's
before?
right. That's right.
Idle hands are the devil's playground. And I can see when a person is bored, they're trying to manufacture some randomity. They're trying to make something happen, to be
Right.
interested in what's going on. Idle hands is a devil's playground. They're trying to start fights or start some kind of gossip or start whatever it is that I'm from Alabama, so gossiping was just part of the course. And because it's a very slow town. I live in a very slow town,
Mhm.
and it would. Well, child, they ain't such and such baby, and such and such, they don't even look like him, and it's like it just goes on and on and on. I'm like, why y'all talking about this? Don't y'all got something better to do? Nope.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing to mention here, and I think we can maybe add this into this, is that we originally started out talking about doing a podcast and about war and boredom and what's going on planet Earth right now here in 2024
Hmm.
in late February, where if you don't give people something to do, then the game becomes get you. That's from the responsibility of leaders policy letter from LRH. And in a larger perspective, throughout history, when people don't have something to be interested in, they become interesting and they start doing things that are out ethics because they are bored. When you get bored, like you were saying, idle hands, a person's
Hmm.
ethics go out because they have to create something to entertain themselves. And that's how we came up
Mm.
with this. That's how we came up with this podcast.
Yeah.
Scientology gives you the opposite of that. It gives you
Right.
the data to where instead of playing games that you don't want to play, you can play games that are pro survival, because you're going to survive one way or the other anyway. You're going to play games that you intend to have and play. And then, again, like he says in Creation of Human Ability, any game, the ultimate ending of a game is loss. Why? Because you
Hmm.
won the game. Even though you won the game, you still lost because now you don't have another
The
game.
game is over. Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in Scientology, there are tons of games that you can play that help yourself and help others. And they're just sort of like micro little games that you have to play, these achievements. And that those achievements come from taking that information, duplicating it, understanding it, and then being interested with it and seeing what the result is that you get with another person.
Well, and that's why I believe that continuing auditing and going on course and doing the things that allow you to live out what you learn. Like for me, after you know being in Scientology and studying Scientology for 20 plus years, like it for me, I think with this data, right? And
Me too.
so it's not something I have to like push through. It just comes up. I was on the cruise and we start talking about the ARC triangle and affinity, reality, communication. And we start talking about how important it is, and everybody had rapt attention. I was in a group of people, and everybody had rapt attention just learning about the ARC triangle. But I was using it in context talking about relationships and how to help these two people who are in a relationship get closer to each other or whatever. And so all of that, it just works when you work it.
Mhm.
And when you think with this data, when you're able to use this in everyday life, your life really does become a game, and you're playing the game. Like you can see it playing out right in front of your eyes, and you can see yourself winning at every moment. Like I'm winning. This happens and I'm still winning. Wait, that happened to me, but I'm still winning. And all of these things happen. Somebody, oh my God, this is just it's my first time talking about to you about this even, Jonathan. But I just got wind earlier this year that I was being sued about something.
Mhm.
And my first reaction was, wait, what? It was a car accident situation that happened some time ago. I was like, wait, what? That was years ago, but it's come back around, right?
Right.
And then I looked at the documents, I looked at the paperwork, and I really read everything through.
Mhm.
And I said, oh, this person's playing a game with me.
Mhm.
That's exactly how I read it. I said, "Oh, this person's trying to play games. Okay, you got games. I got it." And so I contacted my attorney. Things go going on and on. We had a two-way combo, whatever, whatever, and it seems to be a non-issue anymore. But I'm saying that to say, at first, my first look at it was shock and awe, and like, what the heck? But then I realized how crazy it was. It was like for $300,000. It was super crazy. It was like a fender bender, and but it became such a ridiculous game that I no longer felt the fear or the charge or the angst of it, the anxiety that people feel when stuff is going on in their life. I don't feel that anymore because like I realize you just trying to but you got games, you got jokes, you
Mhm.
crazy. And so that's just how I live my life, and that's how it feels. And I got that from studying the subject of Scientology and continuing my processes in auditing, continuing my studies on course, continuing to do the things I need to do. It makes life more fun. And I'm
Mhm.
not joking when I say that.
Mhm. Right. If it's not fun, it's not Scientology.
There you go.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. That's what makes it not boring is that if you know enough of the information, you can apply it to your life on a day-to-day basis. And all of a sudden these things that might get you down, you're like, no, I see this for what it is. And it doesn't bother you anymore because you've got a solution for it. So
Yeah.
it's as simple as that. It's only as boring as you decide that it is boring, and that's typically because you don't understand the subject and you need to look into it and open your eyes, open your mind, and just read it a bit and apply it, and you'll see that it is a fun game.
There you go. I love it.
So for Quenton and I, we are out of time for this podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you want to go on course, we've got several free courses. You can find us at ao-gp.org, and you can also contact us with the email address on ao-gp.org. And you can contact us about auditing, or if you have any questions, we have tons of materials on there. Take a look at them, read them. We've got dictionaries, answer your questions. We're here for you and happy to help. So we'll see you next time on our next podcast, episode 18 next time. So for Quenton and I, namaste, and we love you.
Peace.